left behind by early 21st century humans, none is harder to explain than the one they called the 9 to 5. Try to picture it. Every morning, millions of people woke up, left their homes, and traveled to a single building. They arrived at the same hour, 9 a.m. sharp. Why? No one is entirely sure. They then sat at assigned desks until a second fixed hour, 5 o'clock, at which point, in theory, they were free to go. They did not go. For reasons we are still piecing together, leaving on time was almost never observed. Some workers, the evidence suggests, never left the building at all. We have the desks to prove it. The numbers are staggering. In 2031, a census found that 74% of full-time workers regularly stayed late. Nobody made them. They did it out of fear, the fear that leaving looked exactly like failing. The other 26% were unemployed, dead, or self-employed. The census filed all three under the same heading. They even had a word for it: presenteeism. It meant being at work while getting nothing done and feeling terrible. Everyone agreed this was a problem. Everyone also agreed it was the right thing to do. Nobody looked into the contradiction. Looking into it would have meant going home. Here's where it gets strange. Leaving on time took nerve. You had to walk past colleagues still glued to their desks, and they watched. Survivors describe it as feeling like doing something wrong. One former manager from Brisbane called it the walk of shame, but for having a life. He told us this at 91 years old. He still lowered his voice. The bosses had their own language, above and beyond, going the extra mile, showing commitment. Translated, these all meant the same thing: work more for free forever. Everyone knew it. Nobody said it. A manager could tell you to go home and rest while physically blocking the door and mean every word. The toll was real. People slept less. They saw their families less. And they lost something researchers call the unhurried evening. Those few hours between work and sleep once spent cooking, talking, or doing nothing in particular. Dig through any home from the period and you'll find the evidence: cookbooks, guitars, half-finished novels. Archeologists have a term for their condition: aspirational and unopened. So why didn't they just stop? Here's the twist: they knew. Researcher Mia Solberg found that workers understood the whole thing was insane. They kept doing it anyway because stopping felt impossible. That's the catch with a bad system. Everyone can see it, and nobody can leave. Solberg's landmark study on the subject was finished at 11:04 p.m. on a Sunday. Sometimes the footage speaks for itself. This 2017 training video from a Sydney finance firm opens strong. At this company, we don't watch the clock, we watch the outcomes. It then runs for 40 minutes. Outcomes are never mentioned again. Instead, 14 minutes on dress code, a fire drill that turned out to be a real fire, and a sign-off from a CEO who, by the time we found the tape, had been fictional for years. Then, in the 2030s, it ended. Remote work helped. But mostly it was the kids, a generation that had watched their parents vanish into offices and come home grey and apologetic, as if running late were a disease you could catch. They wanted none of it. Performative business went out of fashion, and leaving at 5 o'clock became, once again, completely normal. Thank you for visiting. A reminder that the cafe closes at 5. Our staff will be leaving on time. Any visitor still here after closing will be escorted out, gently and with great historical sympathy.